Hi, I'm Zachary Fennell. Thank you for joining me for another edition of your Timberland Weather Update. It's your Thanksgiving edition, and as I mentioned last Thursday, we were looking at the chance of a storm barreling down on our area for your Thanksgiving Day, maybe the day after Thanksgiving. It is looking like it's shaping up to be a storm for the Thanksgiving Day for us here, but it's probably going to be a washout. Our chance of snow has diminished greatly, and it's looking like it's going to be all rain along the kind of coastal area in towards our county of New Hampshire. Is just about the only one not expecting any snow, sadly. If you're traveling northern New Hampshire, parts of Vermont and Maine, expect some pretty significant snowfall totals, maybe up towards half a foot in towards Manchester, and even isolated amounts even higher than that in towards the ski mountains. So if you're looking to ski, I've got good news. We're finally getting into ski season, but with the holiday season and ski season, in comes nor'easter season, and you can kind of see why we're expecting some significant storms to form. Just a quick breakdown of the map right here. You see the very cold areas up in the north, very warm areas down in the south. Where you see these huge temperature contrasts, you see storms form along those fronts very often. So as we're seeing towards the fall and now beginning to get into really winter time of the season, still in towards the south, they're dealing with some warm temperatures, even maybe abnormally warm for this time of the year, in towards the Mississippi River Valley, down towards, of course, Mississippi and Alabama, Louisiana, those areas, dealing with some 70-degree temperatures, while in the north, they're barely breaking out of the teens for their high temperatures. So it's no shock that overnight we saw a major cold front form across this boundary. You can see it cutting across the central part of the U.S. here. Behind it, the temperatures dropped into the negatives easily overnight in parts of North Dakota. But still, they held on to some of that warmth down to the south, and you see it continue to get slowly pushed away as we get towards, this is now Tuesday's high temperatures where we stand today. For us, over the last couple days, it's really been pretty average, pretty normal for this time of the year. Yesterday, barely breaking over 45 degrees. Last night, maybe getting down towards 35, not quite freezing, but getting pretty close. That's pretty typical for this time of the year in November, and you can see this front, this major cold front that's bringing the general rain and light to moderate rain across the area. For much of New England has been dealing with some of this continued swath of gross weather for much of the day today. That's not the system that we're too worried about for Thanksgiving. This one will move out of the way, giving the ski areas in the north, a little bit of a dousing of snow before we get into the main event, which you can see beginning to cook up across parts of Colorado. It's kind of disorganized right now, but you see it on the satellite, just a general idea. And as we get towards the fronts map, this is now the fronts map for tomorrow on Wednesday. So this is your Thanksgiving Eve, you could call it. Fronts map. Down in here, we see the low pressure system officially formed, and behind it, some snow and rain mix in towards the Rocky Mountains. This thing will continue to move across the country towards our area, and we've got three main scenarios for this storm. One is coming out to be the predominant and main one as we've looked over the last couple days. So originally, we were thinking that this was probably the most unlikely scenario, but when the models were in total disagreement, we really weren't sure. There's a chance that this red arrow shows exactly where the storm's going to go. Moves just over our area, over parts of New Hampshire, bringing a general washout to much of the area, maybe in towards the higher elevations you're seeing, up towards the mountains. Maybe some of those areas mix into some consistent snow, but it won't be totally snow for them as well. So we're looking at this kind of a map, generally just very rainy. Luckily for the snowy areas up in the north, that has diminished in chances. We've seen this scenario really take hold. So instead of it just riding directly over New Hampshire, it kind of cuts to the south a little bit. A second low pressure system forms, and it generally tracks over Connecticut, parts of Rhode Island, and the Cape instead. And as it begins to hook back in towards this area, it sticks around, bringing lingering snow and rain showers towards parts of northern New Hampshire, Vermont, and Maine for the next continued couple of days. For us, we're still stuck in the rain here, really not getting into much snow at all, but you can see just in the north, they can get into some pretty consistent snow, and we're not expecting a drop of rain to fall across the higher elevations. This is the most likely scenario. We see this storm continue to push across the area, kind of loops up to the north as we get towards Friday and Saturday, but for Thanksgiving itself, it's a general washout, no snow here. There is one more scenario that's possible. We see the system off kind of a second low pressure system that I mentioned developing earlier takes control a lot earlier and goes all the way south of Long Island before pushing, again, wrapping around New England just like we saw the other one do. That one leaves us the chance for some consistent mixing in towards some snow. But again, it's very unlikely. It's more likely that we'll see this system kind of continue in towards north of Long Island, directly over Connecticut and Rhode Island instead, giving our area very few chances to get any snowflakes at all. So we're going to break that down, exactly what that means for this area on the 5-day forecast. But in the meantime, you can see what we're looking at for tomorrow on Wednesday. Highs in the upper 40s, lows getting down towards freezing, but as we get towards Thursday, your Thanksgiving forecast itself, again, it's looking like a total rain out here. A total washout for much of the district. If you do get snowfall, it will likely be at the beginning of the storm. When the storm hasn't fully moved through, maybe you see some mixing, some sleet, a little bit of freezing rain, and a couple snowflakes kind of begin the storm out before the rain totally takes over, and we continue to see that pattern throughout much of the day on Thursday. So Thursday morning, the showers begin to move in as we get towards noontime, and it'll probably flip over to a pretty consistent rainfall. The afternoon and evening hours are looking like it's going to be swamped, and not much of a respite we will have throughout much of the day on Thursday. The good news is that Friday, the day after Thanksgiving, it's going to clear out and it's going to warm up just a little bit. So even though those overnight temperatures are dropping down below freezing for sure, the high temperatures during the day, because it's cleared out, the clouds are mostly gone. Still a partly cloudy day, but clouds are mostly gone. You're getting up towards the mid-40s, maybe even closer towards 50 if you're down towards Boston. On Saturday, as we get into the weekend now, you see it totally clear out, but the temperatures just continue to drop. Look at those low temperatures down in towards the low 20s. Temperature drop continues into next Sunday, and as we get back from vacation next week, back into the swing of school, well, I mean, it's chilly, cold, and chilly. Really not much of a huge temperature swing expected next week. Much of that Arctic air coming in from North Dakota will be able to surge into this area on the heels of this system. It'll push and surge much of that cold air, Arctic type air, all the way up from parts of Canada, moving that all the way into our area, where the low temperatures may be dropping into the teens pretty consistently next week, giving us a chance of a frosty week in the future. Well, I'm Zachary Fennell. Thank you for joining me for your Thanksgiving edition of your Timberlane weather forecast. Make sure that you stay updated on the alerts and any chance of snowfall that there is in the area, especially if you're traveling, especially if you're heading north. Anywhere along I-93, especially north of Manchester and Concord, those areas are going to be getting pretty consistent snowfall, maybe some icing and some sleet as well. So please be careful if you're out on the highways or if you're traveling to see any family members this Thanksgiving. Thank you very much for joining me. I'm Zachary Farnell, signing off. Have a wonderful Thanksgiving and a wonderful Thanksgiving break.